Hi everyone, this is just a wee guide to give you some hints and tips about how you can plan out your studying. Timing, where to start, because sometimes this is the biggest barrier to actually get on with some studying. How to get yourself organised for studying. And finally, ensuring you have some downtime to promote your own health and well-being. The most important thing when considering timing is knowing that last minute cramming for any assessments or exams does not generally work for most people, and that you're better to study in short chunks all throughout the school session. The time of day that is best for you to study can be very different from person to person. Some people like to study and keep going when they come in from school because they're already in the zone from learning, while others like to come home, take a break, talk to their families, get some phone time and downtime, have their dinner before they start on their next study session. You all have other commitments which include your families, your friends. Some of you will have lots of activities and clubs you will also be involved with. It's important that you make sure you feature these as part of your week. It is important to have a subject breakdown, knowing all the topics and units that are in every subject, so that you're going to be in a position to be able to work out the things that you know you can tackle quite easily, the things that you're not too bad with, and the things that you know you struggle with. Once you know all the topics that are in each unit, it's important to then work out which ones you find easiest, which ones you find a wee bit more difficult, and which ones you're really struggling with. I would recommend using 1 star for the topics that you find easiest, 2 stars for the ones that are kind of in the middle, and 3 stars for the ones that are most difficult for you. Very often people start to study the topics that they're most comfortable with. In some ways this is good because it helps to build your confidence, which allows you to continue studying the subject. However, what it also encourages you to do is to ignore the things that you find most difficult. I would always recommend looking at the subjects you find most difficult, look at the areas in particular you find most difficult, use your classwork feedback and assessment feedback from your teachers, and then speak to your teachers who are your best resource to get some more support and information around those particular areas. If we challenge the things that we find most difficult early enough, we have more time to get to understand them and get to learn them in depth, which will really increase our confidence. It's important to make sure that you have all the materials you require to get on with your study plan. So making sure that you have all your notes and any gaps in your notes that you may have are filled, making sure that you have all the resources that you should have from your teachers, which might include end of topic unit lists, things like this which will help you make sure that you have what you need. Also making sure you have things like paper, pens, highlighters, and if you need any of these resources, please do not hesitate to ask at the school because we will supply these for you. Try to have space in your house which is for you to study. Make sure areas that you're working in are clear and there are not lots of distractions around. I appreciate this can be very difficult in busy households, so that's why a study timetable is even more important for you. Lighting is really important, so it's important to make sure that you're not working in an area that's quite dark, because all that does is really encourage you to go to sleep. A lot of young people like to listen to music while they're studying, and a lot of people would tell you not to listen to music while you're studying. I think it's really about what's best for you. However, try to think about the type of music you are listening to if you're going to do that while you are studying. I don't expect that all of you will be really interested in listening to classical music, although some may well be. However, something that doesn't have a lot of lyrics or a really strong beat or bass line in it is more helpful for you when you're studying, as it's less of a distraction. It's also important when you're studying around your space and your lighting that sound is kept to a minimum so that you don't have distractions from elsewhere. But again, I appreciate how difficult that can be in busy households. I would really recommend organising a study timetable. So at the start of the week, you know exactly what you have to achieve over the course of that week. It makes sure you build in all the club's activities and other commitments that you have, but also make sure you really recognise your achievements across the course of the week of what you are doing in personal study. The next slide will talk a wee bit more about that. Now we're going to talk about how you produce your own study plan. Your study plan should feature all the aspects of your week, so that's your school time, your homework, your study time, your clubs and activities, and your relaxation time too. The good thing about a study plan is it helps you plan your week so you can organise the topics you need to work on, the things that are those 3-star topics. It lets you keep notes so that you know that things you need to go back and revisit. And it also helps you recognise how much you're actually doing, because sometimes you actually need to give yourself a pat in the back just to say, you know what, well done, you are working hard. And I have to say to mums and dads, parents and carers out there, that it is really good for you to see these study plans as well, because it really lets you know how much your child is doing and shows their commitment. The first part I've highlighted is a supported study session you have attended for maths. You will see here that I've highlighted this in yellow to make that stand out, and you can also see that I've put down the time there. That lets you see how much studying you have already done before you've even got home from your school day. This next section I've highlighted is highlighted in blue, and this is about homework you're doing. So use 2 different colours for homework and studying so you can work out exactly what you're doing. Lets you keep a wee track of what absolutely needs to be done in terms of deadlines and what you're choosing to do because you're committed to your studying. Here you will see we're going to keep a track of how much homework you're doing and how much is independent study. This is a great way to see that you're reaching targets that you've set for yourself. Next, I have highlighted a tally of how much homework and how much studying was done on Tuesday. And finally here, I've shown an example of an activity you may have, which is a commitment every week. Clearly in the time from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock on a Thursday, you're not able to do a study block. I would not recommend when you come home from 3 hours of training, and whatever that may be, that you start studying at that time of night. You should notice in all these study blocks I have made up, they're all no longer than 45 minutes. It really is important that when you're setting out your study plan, you make sure that you only work in 30 to 45-minute blocks with a small break before you start the next topic. You should always change your topics between these 45-minute blocks as well, so it gives your brain almost a wee shake and a refresh. If you sit and study on one topic over and over and over again for an extended period of time, you remember what you did at the start, you remember what you did at the end, but you might forget the big chunk that you had in the middle. So do short bursts of study, 30 to 45 minutes long, and then change topics in your next study session. We all need downtime in our lives to make sure we have a good balance of work and life. It's not possible to work all day and then all night too. So make sure you fit in time for your family and your friends, your clubs, your activities. Some of you might even have part-time jobs, but also just time for you to sit around, relax, sit on your phone, play your Xbox, watch a film, and just make sure that in there somewhere you've got somebody around who can make you laugh.